thank you for watching Chittarupa Yoga and Fitness. I'm Laura Wilson, and I take seniors from inactive to the fullest activity possible by showing you ways to modify exercises so that everybody can find a way to keep moving and maintain their independence as long as possible. Today, we're going to look at de-stiffening in our yoga practice, and we're going to do this in a chair. I've got plenty of videos linked in the description below that show you how to de-stiffen once you first get out of bed. But I had the occasion recently to be sitting with a few people, and after a while, one lady's like, oh, I'm getting stiff, and she had to stand up and kind of do some things to de-stiffen. So we're going to look at some things that we can do while we're still sitting in our chair to help us keep from getting stiff or as stiff while we're sitting, and then things that we can do to de-stiffen if it does occur, all right? So make sure that you've got a nice safe space to work out in, a chair that's not gonna wobble on you, and be sure to subscribe to the channel, ask your friends to subscribe. If you enjoy the video, hit that thumbs up button below so that other people on YouTube can find it, and let me know in the comments what kind of yoga videos that you enjoy here on this channel, all right? So let's begin sitting back in our chair. So most of the time, if we are sitting, this is where we are, unless we're at a desk, and then this will be where we are. So whatever position speaks to you, where you are most of the time, are you just like this if you're listening to a lecture or watching a video, are you just like this? Or are you someone who's usually at a desk and would be more hunched over? So just start in that position. I know this is odd for yoga, isn't it? But just kind of find that place and just notice how that feels. And you might even take both positions, because I know I kind of flip back and forth. And just notice how that feels. We may not be stiff, but it still doesn't feel good, does it? Let's go ahead and remind ourselves, whenever we are sitting, that we want to have our sit bones under us, shoulders stacked over that, knees hip distant. Another thing we often tend to do is cross our legs. I see a lot of people do this. That can put strain on our hips. I know it doesn't necessarily able to, it totally does. So be mindful every so often of coming back to this neutral, safe position, shrugging our shoulders back, engaging those muscles of our core, stretching the muscles of our chest. Because especially if we're at a desk a lot, we're slumping forward, we need to stretch and open here. And this position here allows blood flow a lot more easily, and our prana or chi energy to flow. When we're in a position like this, we're kind of kinking the hose, so to speak, and cutting off that energy flow. And as we age, we definitely want that flow to occur. So as we're sitting, be mindful of coming back to this position, especially when we find ourselves in one of those other positions, or here. Remember to go here. And for me, it's not that hard because I do start feeling a little strain in my hips, and I'm like, nope, gotta put myself here. So let's take a few deep breaths here. And just imagine that we are, sitting, well, we're not imagining, we are sitting if we're doing this. And let's just start kind of doing a little cat and cow. So it's going to feel weird. Let's say you're in a meeting at work. I've gotten to where they've gotten used to seeing me stand up. I'll tell them now I just need to stand for a little bit. So this is going to keep things flowing through our spine, our nervous system. And we can keep our legs here or a little wide and just move side to side, feeling that stretching. Now, if you're doing this at home or someplace where it's not that big a deal, you can extend the stretch, getting it up into your shoulders, which is going to help alleviate stiffness that happens in our arms and shoulders. Our joints tend to be what gets the stiffest. So this is a little stretch to the hip. And then we're just going to do a little easy twist for now as a warm-up for our yoga workout. Being mindful of keeping our spine long and tall. So as we're sitting, once in a while, let's lift one foot. Flex and point, rotate. We can also do the same thing for our shoulders. Just the occasional little roll, both ways. And of course, again, if you're in a place where it's not going to be embarrassing, you can make this bigger, one arm at a time, or both, whatever works. Try backwards. I think one arm at a time is going to work better for me on this one. And just taking it to fingers. If we keep parts of our body moving and be mindful of that movement, let's take it to a full roll forward and back. And since this is a yoga class, let's go ahead and take it full here. So a little bit different format from our usual yoga. And just take a bigger twist now, holding here. Back to the center, other side. And let's drop our head to one side, and then the other. Lifting up, we'll look to the one side, and then the other. And some other things that we can do throughout our sitting. Let's toe heel our feet out and in. Back to that hip distance, which is about the distance of 2 fists between our knees, and sitting up. So those are some things, if we're mindful while we're sitting, we can do these movements throughout, even these movements, throughout the time that we're sitting, to help us keep from stiffening up, hopefully as bad at least. But let's say that we were not mindful and we've been sitting for 5 minutes or more, because it usually doesn't take that many minutes to make it stiff. But I know in the case of the woman I'm talking about, we've been sitting there at least 30 minutes. So let's say that you do happen to sit somewhere, you're engrossed in that TV show or the shopping that you're doing online, it is that time of year, and you didn't do any of this. So before we try to stand up, because I know sometimes with the bursitis I've had in my hip, my hips can lock if I don't do some kind of movement first. So let's imagine that we've just been sitting and not moving for 30 minutes. Let's begin with fingers and toes. Since this is going to be similar to coming out of Shavasana. And then we're going to rotate an ankle. Let's do the opposite wrist. Let's do the other side. And engaging our core, let's kick one leg out and then the other. So a lot of the same stuff we just did. We can even do a little walking in place in our chair. Let's bring the soles of our feet together, open our knees wide, go here and just stretch. So a little opening across our chest and our hips. And we can add that finger movement again. Coming back here, let's take it wide, and we're going to hold this stretch this time. Really stretching it across, because I know for me, again, it's hips that tend to get stiff. And if I'm going to stand up, I need to get my hips ready to do it. And one of my favorite chair moves is reaching back to hold the back of the chair and really opening up here. Now, if you feel like you just have to stand in order to de-stiffen, go for it, all right? I'm just trying to give you ideas of things to do to make that transition from sitting to standing a little more comfortable. And never just stand up really fast. We all have been there. You stand up too fast and you wind up falling back down. Because again, the chi has been blocked, your prana has been blocked, and your body isn't ready to go that far. Let's push one hand down, drop our head, and we're just going to shake our head side to side. And then from the center, nod it up and down. Let's take it to the other side, and again, side to side, then up and down. Probably should have started with our shoulder rolls, as big and funky as you want. Swim in the air. backstroke in the air. Now let's do a little squeeze of our glutes. Notice how that feels. Let's do 3 of those at least. And then we'll see about standing up. Okay? Now let's say that we did feel the need to stand up. Some things to think about. We've been sitting, so this area of our body is definitely closed off, and if we've been hunched, this part is. So let's begin here with easy fists on our bottoms, and we're going to lengthen up and find a little back bend, drawing our shoulders back. So if you do stand up first, go straight to these exercises. And if you did do the others first, you can still go to these exercises next. Now, I like to take a downward facing dog here on the chair, but if you're standing up, you can actually take it at the wall, stepping back, pushing back, until you're in sort of an L shape. Upside down L maybe. And we're going to come up, find that stretch. I like to hold onto the chair, pushing this foot into the floor so we get our whole body stretched this time. Making sure that we breathe. Now let's open up across our chest. So as I said, when we're sitting, we tend to be bent in and closed in. We've kind of opened up this area. Let's take it here, behind the chair probably. So let's take one leg back, and we're going to push back and open up across this hip. So options that you can add here are a little back bend to get more stretch through there. I'm even going to add a little twist, and that gets the stretch across the side of our hip. Keep pushing back through this heel. This is also stretching down to our ankle and foot. And we can even take a little side bend in it. You can also add a back bend, or we did that already. All right, let's look at the other side. Starting in that stretch, and you can hold it here just this way the whole time. Adding a back bend if you choose. I like to have support with a hand there on those glutes. Go for it up above if you wish. And of course, we can take the twist. Or even the side bend. Releasing from there. And of course, never underestimate that walking around. We're all going to listen to our own body, right? We all know what we need. So we can actually add some of these movements to that walking. But I'm going to go back and reiterate the being mindful while we're sitting, okay? Be mindful while you're sitting and try to do some of these moves as you're there, and be mindful of sitting up tall instead of slouching forward or back, all right? Let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful, please. And please do subscribe, get that Gmail account, subscribe to the channel, let your friends know to subscribe, and definitely hit that like button for me so that more people out on YouTube can find this video, all right? Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.